This is not an endorsement of that song for our congregation. Welcome back to NoPro Worship. My name is David Wesley. Last week we talked about the concept of the worship repertoire, the idea that your church has a finite number of songs that it can keep in active rotation and still provide a meaningful and engaging worship experience for your people. One of the key takeaways from last week was the idea that you need a tool to keep yourself organized with your songs, to keep track of what songs you're using, how often they're being used, so that you can evaluate on a regular basis whether you're meeting the 6 purposes of worship or serving your congregation's particular needs well. So this week will actually be quite practical. I'm going to show you a specific tool that you could start using today for organizing your worship repertoire. But before I do that, I just want to give a special thanks to my patrons on Patreon, especially my top tier patrons, MARSHA, HANSEN, and Jendrik Föhlisch. Without your financial support, NoPro Worship would not be happening. So the tool that I want to talk about today is called Planning Center. This is a web-based service used by about 30,000 churches worldwide, so you might already be familiar with it. Personally, I've been using it since about 2010, I believe, and I find it to be a tremendous tool for planning services and organizing songs, chord charts, what have you. And as I said before, this is something you could start right now. They have a 30-day trial for free, as well as an ongoing free package that allows up to 5 users. And I'm in no way sponsored by Planning Center. I just think that it's an amazing tool to keep you organized. All right, so I've gone ahead and created a new church within Planning Center called David Wesleyan Church. So let me log in here. All right, so this is very, very fresh, just like you'll see it if you create a profile on the website. So here I am in the Plans tab. I've created a service for March 10th. All you'll see here is a spot where I can add different items, but we're not going to worry about that quite yet. So clicking on the Songs tab here, it says that I don't have any songs added. So why don't we go ahead and add a couple? So why don't we add In Christ Alone. All right, Keith Getty and Stuart Townend. You can enter in any information here. There's a couple different tags for the type of song. But for now, I'll just throw in that it's about 3 minutes long. It's in 3/4 time. Medium speed, contemporary-ish. And by default, I'll have this in the key of D. So these details aren't too important at the moment. All right, so when you add a new song, it takes you immediately to the default arrangement that it's created for you. You can go in and you can add files to the song as a whole. You can add files to the arrangement or files that are specific to a key here. And when you go to the key, if you've integrated with your CCLI Song Select account, you can actually directly import chord charts in there, which is very handy. You can directly import lyrics as well, and you can use that to create your own chord chart. All right, so I will go back to the Song tab, and add a couple more songs here. So how about How Deep the Father's Love for Us by Stuart Townend. I'll say it's about 3 minutes for sake of argument, and this song is in 5/4, which people love. Slow and contemporary-ish, and I usually do the song in E. All right, skip back to the Songs tab, rinse and repeat. Why don't we throw in How He Loves by John Mark McMillan. This is not an endorsement of that song for our congregation. This song is in 6/8. It's medium and contemporary or rock. And I'll just leave that in C for now. Okay, and I can just point out here on the song page that when you import this information from CCLI, you can actually see some information about the themes of the song, and I can go in and I can actually edit some of these. If you find that there's something that's missing, this song is about God's love. For example, in Christ Alone, I don't think it has the cross in there in the themes, you could add that as well. All right, so here I have my entire song repertoire of 3 songs, and it tells me when it was created and the keys that are in, and it'll tell you the last time that it was scheduled. So if I go back to my plans tab here and to the service I created for March 10th, I'm going to add my first item here, and I want to add a song. So I click link a song, and I can just click on In Christ Alone and accept. All right, so that's my one and only song. Very quick service. Back to the songs tab here, you can now see that this song was last scheduled on March 10th. So when you come back to the song tab here, there's a couple of useful tools that you can have. On the left-hand side here, when you are searching for songs, if you have a big repertoire and you don't want to have to manually go through and look for things, you can search according to, what time signature or key signature songs are in, by different themes or by author, and that way you can kind of narrow down the kind of songs that you want. If you are doing a communion service and you want, cross-centered songs, you could just type in cross. As long as you've put the information appropriately when you added the songs, then they will come up and save you a little bit of time. Now, underneath the search tool, if you click on any of these, it will do a search for songs that you've tagged with whatever's there. So right now, this is the speed tag of medium. So I brought up How He Loves and In Christ Alone, because we said that How Deep the Father's Love is slow. So I will clear that filter. Now, the tags here is what I think is probably the most useful tool in managing a song repertoire. It gives you the chance to evaluate songs and just permanently mark in different attributes of the song that can help you decide whether it's appropriate to be used in certain circumstances. So I'm going to go to Edit Tags here. So right from the get-go, we saw when we added In Christ Alone and the other ones that we had a choice between chorus, hymn, instrumental, and special for the type of song. I'm going to go ahead and just delete the chorus tag. It's kind of an outdated term, I think. I'm going to change hymn to traditional hymn. And I'm going to add contemporary. I know there was a contemporary style elsewhere, but I'm not too concerned about that. So there's not a whole lot of built-in tags. Like we saw the song type, and in the arrangement, we saw a bit of the speed. That's kind of useful. And the style. And here is where you can add a type of tag by adding a tag group. So I'm going to add a tag group called difficulty. And I'm going to allow multiple selections here. All right, so in my difficulty group, I can add tags like difficult vocal rhythm. I can add a tag that says difficult vocal range. How about difficult chord changes, which would be pretty much every Christmas carol for guitar players, unfortunately. All right, so I can go back to the Songs tab here. And this is the reason why I chose How He Loves. So I'm going to click that and bring it up. And I am going to add some new tags. So I'm going to hit Add there. And it brings up my difficulty category. Click on difficulty, and I'm going to say that there is a difficult vocal rhythm in that song because it's a little bit complicated with the syncopation during the verses there. So again, go back to my Songs tab here. And when I am looking for, as I mentioned last week, when you're looking for songs to retire from your repertoire, one of the things you could look for is to try to get rid of those songs that have been marked off as difficult. Why leave your congregation behind if they're difficult?
I will not leave you behind this time, Humpty.
So I will click on difficult vocal rhythm there, and that will bring up my one and only song that I've tagged as a difficult vocal rhythm there, and I can decide what to do with it. So I won't belabor this too much. Sorry, let me clear that filter. You have an unlimited number of songs that you can add here. If I were to log in under my account at my church, I think there would be over 300 songs, including some that are in the archived folder. So when you're done with the song, you don't have to delete it. You can just archive it, and what that does is it puts it away so you don't have to look at it, but it stays in your history in terms of how often it's been used, any of the special attributes that you added to the song, as well as any file attachments like chord charts and links to YouTube videos, things like that. So then if for whatever reason you wanted to add it back into your repertoire, you don't have to do it from scratch. It's already there. So let me just go back into In Christ Alone here, into my sheet here. So you can add all sorts of different resources, and one of the most useful ones I think for people learning to do a new song is that I'm going to click on here to add my first file. And one of the cool things you can do is add a YouTube link, and you can directly search for YouTube In Christ Alone. So let me just go through here and see how far down my version is. Oh, there we go, on the third page, In Christ Alone by David Wesley. So I'll click on the little plus sign here. So now every time somebody logs into Planning Center from my church and sees In Christ Alone, they can actually see, go to YouTube directly from there to see, this is how I want to do this song. So you should check it out. When I go back to the Services tab, I can come over here and it tells me that there's some song attachments, and I can click on In Christ Alone, and it'll actually start playing the video that I linked right into the program there. All right, so as I said, this is just a very brief overview of a very useful tool for managing your song repertoire. Once you've built in the songs that you already been using, say you can go back to whatever paper or Excel or Word spreadsheets you have of your service orders for the last year or two, it's a good idea to populate Planning Center at least with the song names. In my current church, when I wanted to get Planning Center started up, I actually got from the church administrator the list of service orders going back 3 years prior to that point, and I added all the songs, and I actually just briefly put the songs into fake past services within Planning Center, so that all the data about how songs were used in the past was already there. And it was really interesting because, speaking of In Christ Alone, I showed this was before I was a worship leader in my church. I showed it to one of the worship leaders and I said, look at this little spreadsheet that I've made up, a report that shows how often we've used these songs. And in the previous 12 months, In Christ Alone had been used one time. And then I looked at another song that I thought was a little flaky, but it had been used, I think, 6 or 7 times. And this particular worship leader actually really likes In Christ Alone, and he couldn't believe it. He thought, no, there's no way we only sang that once in the whole year. But yes. So when you have a tracking tool like this, you're not relying on your own memory. If there's songs that are important to your congregation, but somehow just slip your mind, you can go back to Planning Center and you can sort your list of songs by last scheduled. Go to the ones that are the furthest back and see, oh, should we do this again so that it doesn't kind of fall out of rotation, or is this something that maybe we can archive and replace? So this is just a bit of an introduction to the song tools in Planning Center. There's all sorts of different reports that you can do. There's great video tutorials that are put together by the developers. The site is constantly changing, adding new features, and there's always great resources there to try to figure out what tools are there. I couldn't recommend it more highly. So I do these NoPro worship videos because I believe that the church deserves leaders that grow, and that includes growing in their use of technology and administration, because the bottom line is when you're in a position of leadership, you owe it to steward your responsibilities using all the tools that you can at your disposal. And in terms of worship leaders, that means being very intentional about creating the most engaging and challenging and meaningful worship services that you can. You have 300 opportunities to fill song slots per year in your church, approximately. So this is a great tool you can use to do that the most effectively. So these videos are available every Friday. If you're enjoying them, I suggest that you subscribe to my channel. And if you're interested in supporting the creation of these videos, you can visit my Patreon page at patreon.com/DavidWesley. And I will see you next Friday.